Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today I've got William with us and he's going to be talking about all things technical. So welcome to the podcast. Good to get you on the sofa.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, it's been quite some time. I think we've just trying to get the dates right. But no, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, it took you out into the country and you managed to find us.
Yeah.
So well done. Good work. That's the first test to actually get it.
There we go. So I passed that. Yeah. Wonderful weather though. Not raining today. So easy to get here. Yeah,
it's not too bad. So William, you know, your business, technically is building like technical things like platforms and apps and all that wonderful stuff. So do you just give us a little bit background behind why you started the company in the first place?
The reason I started the company. So let's see how far do we go. I mean, I attended Science University for computer science. Came out of that, and obviously computer science was the popular thing to do. So could I get a job that would pay me what I thought I was worth after putting that effort in? No, is the answer. And so I actually went into working as a account management within a juice manufacturer. So completely left field.
Yeah.
So orange juice, they used to produce freshly squeezed. And my job there was kind of just relationship building really with Marks and Spencer's and Sainsbury's and making sure that they were happy. And I don't know how much you know about kind of supermarkets and how they deal with their suppliers, but they're very good at setting contracts where, they'll place an order.
Yeah.
If you deliver it, great. But if you don't deliver it, they still charge you for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with juice, especially in the summer, what they do is they give you forecasts, which are always way off.
Yeah.
So just to pick a number, they say they want 100,000 liters, and then the order comes in at triple that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got a good relationship, you can pick up the phone, Francois or M&S, and say, "Hey, how's it going? Look, the orders come in. It's way off the forecast. Do me a favor, lower it for today. We can give you 150, and we'll make up the rest tomorrow."
Right. Okay.
The relationship's fine. They go, "Yeah, no worries, we'll do that." If it isn't, they'll be like, "Well, no, you missed," and then you get the penalty, and they'll charge you for it.
Wow.
So it's and this is why a lot of suppliers with the supermarkets, you can be very, very careful into how you enter that contract, because they end up losing out.
Wow.
So there's only so much excitement that juice can bring for somebody who's technical. So it's as fun as it was, it wasn't really for me. And so I was there for a couple of years, and then I looked elsewhere for something that was a little bit more what I wanted to do. And I came across a small company called Nav TV, and what they did is they manufactured in the UK interfaces for car navigation screens. So if you had that navigation screen, then the interface would allow you to connect a third-party product or a TV tuner or a PlayStation or a DVD player to be viewed on our original screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So I applied, I got the job, and they wanted me to just increase the sales in the UK. Within 6 weeks of kind of doing that, I looked at the market and nobody else was kind of offering this in Europe. And I said, well, why aren't we pushing this product? Especially one of the particular products was cutting edge, which is using the fiber optics. And I said, why aren't we going into Europe? Just don't know how to do it. I said, well, do you want me to give it a try? I said, yeah, we'll go for it.
Yeah.
And I did, and what I did is I contacted all distributor for all the well-known kind of Kenwood, car audio brands and so on. And within that year, we set up a whole distribution network around Europe. So we had Benelux, we had Turkey, we had France, Spain, Italy, Germany. And the company went from, I think it was turning around 250,000 to 1.5 million within the year.
Wow.
And it was going really, really well. It was the sort of thing that I kind of enjoyed doing. I was dealing directly with the business owners. Very driven, fantastic stories, how they grew their businesses, and you just get inspired by this, And so working with them for, I think, just short of 3 years, this kind of rubs off on you. It's the most impressive story was actually the owner of the distributor in Italy, because actually it was a huge company. They actually manufactured the antennas for Audi and BMW.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was asking him how the company kind of evolved, and he said actually back in in 1929, we used to manufacture bicycles.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies like that, right?
And they gone from bikes to then tech, and the manufacturing facility had the big drones where you put a car in and you can test them and things like that, and it was just huge, turning around billions, and it's how you can grow from one thing to another.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of businesses out there that started off one thing and ended up somewhere else. I mean, and then you also find out that a company making a lot of its money, what you perceive is what they do, but then you find out they do a whole load of other things. So I was in Hungary probably about, I think it was in October, mid-October, and we went to visit Bosch, and it was their innovation headquarters. Now, Bosch for me is normally like washing machines or a dishwasher, that sort of, maybe tools. That's the other one we all know them from. But the majority of their work is innovation in cars.
All right. Okay. Well, there we go. Yeah.
See, and even just funny surprise on your face, like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So we go there, and we're being torn around this huge building, and they've got like the latest cars all in this big garage lockup, and they do all the cameras and all that sort of stuff. So the reversing cameras and the cameras on the dashboard, dash cams, they do all that technology. So they've got all these cars with this vinyl all over them, so you can't work out what the shapes are.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they're testing them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this is what Bosch do.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, internally, they almost see themselves as an automotive company more than anything else. So it's just, it's amazing how we perceive a company for something when there's so much more going through. And then there's obviously the pivot. They're known for one thing and then flip to something else. I'm just trying to think of some more examples of companies that started off one way and then ended up somewhere else. Can you think of any?
I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, I know what, again, kind of from food service, there's one that's 36, there's a number 366 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they used to be a directory inquiries.
Yeah.
That turned then into food supplier services, a distributor for food, it's it's interesting how things change.
I know what we know as X or what we know as Twitter. I know that started off something completely different and then ended up being exactly what we see it now. I can't remember what that was. It was almost like a directory type thing and changed. But it's that point of that businesses evolve over time and shape over time, and I think that's the key thing, is that you might start off doing one thing and then end up somewhere else. And I think certainly in the automotive industry, like Lamborghini, it's like they were tractors, and then they've ended up with these supercars as well. So they still make tractors and stuff, but Lamborghini is ultimately a tractor firm, not a sports car.
I mean, with those, obviously, you can see that's almost an evolution. Whereas, there are some where it is a complete pivot. They come from one sector completely to something different. Yeah, and I think they've been able to do that through very strong leadership. Yeah, because I think when you have a leader that people or the team looks up to, they will follow that leader. Yeah. Even if it's something completely different. And once you have that and you've got that culture within the team that they value and respect, and they know that these things are going to happen, then they're able to do those changes, because it's the culture that allows for that. Because
exactly. And I think, like with yourself, you're working for a company that's obviously pivoting and it's growing and it's getting successful. So then obviously you're looking at, I'm sure at that point, then thinking, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I could give it a go. Is that kind of what you thought?
I mean, with us, it's we've been reflecting a lot on actually this year makes 17 years since we started.
Wow.
At what we deliver, because we're quite broad. We.
But what I'm talking about is like when you went from working for that organisation that scaled.
Oh, right, okay.
And then you left. Did you leave? How did that bridge to go to do to what you do?
Yeah.
Now?
So the reason I left, like I said, it's kind of I was meeting all of these business owners who had become very successful, and I could see that actually when you have something that's yours, kind of the sky's the limit, and also you've got that control. If something goes wrong, then you give yourself a kick and you fix it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what I used to find quite frustrating is that with the sales that I was making, I wouldn't get paid on what I sold. I got paid on what went out the door, which I had no control over.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So my commission was based on what production could get out the door, or what I was selling.
Yeah.
Which really frustrated me. And no matter what I said in terms of making sure that we had extra stock and so on to fulfill them, it was beyond my control.
Yeah.
And then, as it happens, the product that we had, that was our lead product for the Range Rovers, and everything with the fiber optic, started getting copied by the Chinese, who started off with it at a lower price. And I could see that it was going to become more and more challenging to be as competitive as we had been. So I sort of looked at the market, and so this is in 2008 or 2007 really. And the websites back then, because we started off with websites, they were mainly, it was designed and developed by the company, and any updates were sent. Very few content management systems existed, and the ones that existed were kind of just too difficult to use.
Yeah.
So I saw an opportunity for just being able to create very simple websites and e-commerce sites that could be managed in-house, and actually produced a result. They were optimized. People, search engine optimization, people didn't know what that meant. You have to kind of educate them about that. Google Analytics, again, that was very new. I can actually see what people are typing to find me, and where in the country they are, and prior to that, people were all talking about hits. They were told about hits, but they didn't understand what hits were,
Yeah, of course.
I've got these figures, and it tells me how many hits I get a month. I said, do you actually know what that means? Oh, visits? I said, no. As the page is loading, you're getting the hits for everything that's loading on the page. So it doesn't really mean anything. Oh, right. Oh, that's a bit useless, isn't it? I said, however, I could tell you.
So, because you mentioned that you've been doing this for 17 odd years. So you've seen a massive shift in the online space. I remember because I've been in that sort of world for a long while. And I remember even things shifting. They're making us do a mobile version of our site. It was a massive thing, right? Now it's it's accepted. But I remember that big thing that Google are going to punish you if you haven't got a mobile version of your site.
Yeah. And when secure certificates came in,
SSL.
That was a big thing. People didn't understand what it was and why we should have it.
Some people still don't understand it. You go to their website, it's got not secure.
That blows my mind. I think anybody who's creating anything that's online, if you're not looking at security, then you got to think twice. Worrying. But then I think like in any industry, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, isn't it? People who think they can do things but haven't really put the time in.
So let's go right back then. So I mean, obviously you made those decisions over a period of time and seeing what other people do. But let's say when you're at school, was there any thought that you'd want to run your own company at some point? Was that always on the radar and you kind of forgotten about it? And then or were you just almost making decisions as it happened?
I mean, I always looked
because computer science was the thing.
Exactly. I mean, I knew I liked computer science. I knew I liked kind of programming. That's the sort of thing that I liked. But I always looked up to people who run their own businesses, so business owners and entrepreneurs. Because to me, they made their own destiny, They control what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. So that was always there in terms of one day I want to do that. But, again, it's kind of, you go through the process, you go through school, you go through university, you come out, and then it's kind of, you find yourself a job, and that's how you do it. But I mean, for me, like I said, the turning point was working very closely with those business owners that had those success stories. And some of them, they said, actually, they're really bad times. It isn't. It's just they made it very clear. If you're ever going to do something like this, you got to be prepared that it's going to be the bad times. They're going to be the times where you think, I should have stuck with my job.
Yeah, of course.
But like I said, it's all about what you want to do and how, I guess, confident you are in yourself that you're going to make it a success.
Yeah, obviously been in that world and that entrepreneur world and that journey. I think it's a case of you almost work in a day job and you're quite comfortable because you come there and you go work at 9 o'clock and you finish at 5 o'clock, and then you go back the next day, and then it's the same thing the following week. And that's a security thing. There's nothing wrong in that. But I think there's that, as an entrepreneur, when you're doing that, there's that, you're seeing everything as learning rather than this is it. And I think that's two ways of looking at life. So an entrepreneurial journey really is that you launch out into the marketplace. You take your first job and you enjoy it, and it's like, it's better than working somewhere that I just have to earn money. I've studied, or I've learned at college, or I've picked up a few skills, and now I'm launching into my career. And then the second thing is where I'm learning it. So you know that you're going to have to be educated. For you to go from junior to senior, there's a distance, right? There's a few wins, there's taking more responsibility, and there's learning. Then essentially you get good at it, and then the chances are that you end up leading. And I think it's often in that leading point is where you start to realize, do I want to lead my own, or do I want to lead within? And I think what happened with COVID, a lot of people were leading within and then come out of COVID going, I want to lead, so it's my own. Yeah. And I mean, that's been the biggest shift, I think, in the marketplace for the last 30, 40 years. And I think that's because a lot of what we would deem the safer jobs, like, working in the bank, for example, or a large corporate, when they started to pop people on furlough and then started to make the decision, well, maybe your job isn't as secure as you thought it was. Yeah. And some people were given like 20, 25 years to that organization. I think people, like you said, then were like, actually, I want to be in charge of my own destiny. But the payoff of that is the up and the downs. And if there's a problem, as you said, it's now on you, to make the difference. So you were one of the crazy ones. So did you start the business as yourself, or did you have a team of people? How did it go?
Basically,
co-founder.
So James, my co-founder, essentially the way we did it, we did take a kind of almost a safe approach in terms of I went full time from day one.
Okay.
He still continued to work at the International Baccalaureate.
Yeah.
Who then became one of our clients there. I started kind of full time from day one, and just going out there and really knocking doors in terms of everybody that I knew, and kind of, this is what we're looking to do. So if you know anybody, and it's introduce us and take it that way. And then even going back to the yellow pages, if people can remember that, one of my approaches, again, this is where kind of the sales really came in, is to open up the yellow pages and look for those companies who had the big 1-pager or 2-pager adverts.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I knew that they were getting charged anything from £25,000 to £50,000 a year for those adverts. And then I looked at their website, and if it wasn't up to par, then that was my opportunity to give them a call. Cold call. Yeah. And sometimes you couldn't get to the right person, but if you did and you got in front of them, it would be a case of never insult what they have.
Yeah.
Just say, I'd like to have a conversation on how we could improve your website in a way that will really reflect your company as it is.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's not a true reflection.
No, you still. Sometimes I still get that on people's LinkedIn DM strategy. We can improve your website. Blah 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 blah. It's like, have you looked at our website? It's obvious they haven't. You know, and I think that little bit of intelligence and that little bit of homework can stand you in good stead. And I love what you said. It's like, don't go in and saying your stuff's rubbish. Because ultimately, it's like, well, I've spent money on this.
And the other thing you got to be careful of is you don't know who's done it.
Yeah.
It could have been you're talking to the person who put a lot of effort into making that website what it is.
Because they might have done it themselves, right? Yeah.
Or it could be whoever it is, their son or whatever. And then all of a sudden you're insulted and it gets very, very personal and you're out of there.
So from your perspective, obviously you're in the UK, you're dealing with the British sort of approach. Whereabouts are you from originally?
So originally from Venezuela.
Yeah.
My parents moved here when I was 9.
Okay.
And we've been here ever since.
So is it, obviously then, because you're young, you've grown up in this very reserved culture, I would say. What's the differences between the cultures between Venezuelans and let's say the British? Because some cultures are more direct, some cultures aren't, and we are.
I mean, it's I think not just Venezuelans in South America, everybody's kind of people are very direct. They are they don't hold back. That's the kind of the attitude. So Vietnam, I was exposed to that in a way, but then obviously I brought it here. So there is a mix within my personality and my approaches for those sort of things. But I think Venezuelans are very outgoing.
Okay.
Very open. We always look for ways to help somebody. That is the nature. If you meet a Venezuelan today, they'll invite you and go, look, come over for dinner, and then
Where's my invite?
It's very, very straightforward. It's straight away. It's, come over for dinner, or if you even went to them and you just met them today, but you said, oh look, I got a problem with my car and I got to sort this out, and I'm struggling to get one for tomorrow. They'll go, well, tell you what, borrow mine. It's a very it's a very different culture too.
It's a strange one because like I've traveled a lot, like recently, not like forever. I mean, I've driven minibuses to Romania and places like that. But the point of it is, well traveled is like working with businesses in those different countries. And I think what I've become aware of, even the way the South and the North conduct themselves. I find people up north are a lot warmer. They're a lot more open, a bit like what you said. They're maybe not so direct, but they're like more invitational. Let's have a conversation. How's your day? I find the further south you go, the less they're interested. And the more you go towards London, the less they're interested. It's just like, we just want to get the job done. But I think as you work in business, you realize that I think sometimes culturally we are very reserved, the Brits are. And if you are a business starting out or you're launching out, we're almost scared to ask for the sale, and we think, oh, I'm selling. And it's like, well, you got to flip your mentality to say, how can I serve you better? How can I improve what you have? Which is what you were saying with the Yellow Pages, is that I'm coming to them and saying, how can we make it better? Not you're rubbish and you need to do it all over again, because that's not a nice conversation to have with anyone. But I just think I've started to realize, like, culturally, just how reserved we are. And when you start like working in America, for example, where it's that, can do the American dream or whatever. I'm not saying it's all like gung ho and like Top Gun type people, but they do have this optimism, an optimistic sense of doing life that, we can do it. And if we can't figure it out, or we make a mistake, we're ready to go again, which I feel really like refreshing. When I compare it back to the UK, and even the way that they invest, it's like they're happy to say, okay, let's just do it, let's see what happens. Rather, in this country, you get told, this is the inheritance of 15 generations and you better work, that sort of stuff.
And this is it. I mean, there are no guarantees in life, even when you do projects and things like that, there's always a risk. There's nothing that, I think if somebody came to me with anything and said it's 100%, it's nothing's 100%,
No.
It's whenever we provide a solution, it's about making sure that we de-risk everything as much as possible, by doing the analysis of the stakeholders, what it is that they want to get out of it, making sure that actually even before we build whatever platform that we're building, is why are we building it to begin with? Oh, well, I was in a meeting and I heard that it would be a good thing to have. There's not enough substance to that. Is your team needing this? Are your end users really looking for this solution, or you just you want an app? An app tends to be the thing that everybody wants, and then when you dig down and ask them, you really find that there's no need for an app, and they would just be wasting money and seeing no return on it. So it's about really digging deeper and finding out why people want it,
And I don't think people spend enough time on use cases, as you said. It's like they think about the end user, the buyer, or the person that's going to be using the site to search for things, but they don't think about the admin and how to manage it and that sort of stuff. It's like, well, if you're taking a picture, how they're going to upload it, whose responsibility is that, and just walking them through. This is a living, breathing animal once it's live, and it needs feeding, and it needs feeding from the back end, and it needs feeding from the front end, because it can look tired and people can't find stuff, and then navigations change, and then you find that everyone's doing stuff along the top rather than just down the side now. So there's so many different things that you can look at and evolve. But the use cases for me is often the thing that people overlook, that the end user is not the only user of the website.
No, by all means it's not. And that's the danger. A lot of people focus, or a lot of their main focus is what the end users can see.
Yeah.
not what the back end is going to be like.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is if you have a team that's very reluctant to update a system because they think,
Yeah.
I have to look at this manual,
Yeah.
which is this thick,
Yeah.
in order to do what I need to do, then, it gets updated less and less, or they find shortcuts to provide that information, which means they're not using the platform anymore. And then that initial investment just gets lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I completely agree with you. It's always, you got to look at when you look at stakeholders, it's internal and external.
Exactly. And we've ended up building sites in the past with like schools, and it's like, as much as it is about the kids, in a sense, they're not the decision makers, the parents are. So I remember working with a school once where they had a prospective brochure that was sent out to the whole community just after they had got a really poor Ofsted. And the prospective brochure was hand drawn because it's all the kids' drawings put on the front cover. And they thought that would be a good idea. But what it did is, it was like the torch paper to the problem. It's like, you're selling the school to our kids, but we want an organization that actually works, thanks. And this says what we expected. It looks like it's been drawn on the back of a Post-it, and that's how the organization is run. And when you've got Jimmy's 5-year-old picture that looks great on the fridge, but on a perspective for your organization, it's worrying. And I remember like going in there for the first time, and I'm not going to name who they were, but I remember going in there going, you do know that the audience and the decision makers aren't the children. What do you mean? I said, little Jimmy or Johnny or Julie or whoever it is, they will come for the day. But ultimately, it's the parent that's going to be saying, that's where we're going to take them, because they're the ones that have to drive to work, back to work, pick them up, blah, blah, blah. All the other logistics, all the other reasons why they're going to do it. You need to allay their fears and say that their kid is safe, their kid is going to flourish. And you could see it. It was like, and then that was the difference between working with a marketing agency and working with teachers that are great at teaching, but not necessarily at marketing. And so when we done that, then we began to educate. And I think what you've said as well, like over the period of 17 years, I think a lot of our job has all been about education, educating people in the right way to do things, educating people about different users on a website, educating people that, a website needs to do certain things that you may never have considered. But first, let's have a conversation. Let's understand the needs and understand the needs of your audience, or if it is ready for your audience. Because, if you Julie 6 says, I want to go there. Okay, who signs that off? It's signed. No. It's the parents have got to sign off the model release forms, for example, and all kinds of things that they would never have considered. And I think, for me, I see that mistake made so many times where they're almost so internally focused. They deliver a website, particularly an in-house built site sometimes, where they're answering their own questions based on assumptions with no understanding of who they're there to serve.
Yeah, I mean, it's that is a big problem. Also, whether it's a website or a system of some kind, one of the things that we regularly overcome is when they essentially just want us to digitize what is a manual process without giving thought on the workflow.
Yeah.
And so often we get that pushback. So, we've always done it this way. Okay, so we're going to continue to do something just because we've always done it this way. Have you considered doing it this way? Right. Okay. And sometimes the client is so close to it, that they don't see, fresh pair of eyes will bring in a new solution that will completely change and revolutionize their workflow. We'll make sure that it's streamlined and then the other thing that I think end users are expecting a lot more, especially with banking apps and things like that, is access to information, access to things 24/7.
Yeah.
So having a system that's only reliant on being managed by your team 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and providing that information during that time, that's below par, really, or what people are expecting.
It's even if you're a retail company and you've got a chat function on there, and even if your team aren't working 24/7, and there are ways to do that, but even on the chat where it says, well, we're not in the office, but there's a response to then provoke a response, not blank.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because actually, the companies who focus on that customer journey 24/7 and everything, making sure that everything from the initial website or phone call or everything, the ones who make sure that go, right, okay, well, how can we improve this? How can we improve that? How can we, for every single stage?
Yeah.
Right up until they've sold, and actually the ongoing kind of.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who really succeed. The ones who think, oh yeah, it's okay. You know, we're Monday to Friday. They can call us from 9 to 5. You know, if they don't, then you know it's only 2 days on the weekend, and they're just missing huge opportunities.
Yeah.
They're missing huge opportunities. And the ones I think are worse at this tend to be the smaller companies, because they think, oh, you know, we're only so big. You know, what are we expected? But actually, this is where technology really kicks in.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the chatbots, but now there's AI phone agents.
Yep.
That will pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Actually, those are fantastic because you can give them a whole library of knowledge.
Yeah.
And they have it there. And if you ask that question, they will find it.
Yeah.
For any use case, whether it's a cleaning company, whether it's an electrical firm, whether it's a leasing company.
Yeah, of course.
And if you think about it, again, you know, with a leasing company, some people are looking through their Instagram posts and they say, all right, brilliant, I want to call. Oh, I can't call them because, you know, it's out of hours. But if those ones who do decide to call and they reach an AI bot, who then they can say, all right, I'm looking for a Lexus 300 this year. They'll find it straight away and tell them. You know?
It's an interesting when you say that, because I find that, you know, you someone puts a lot of spend behind an ad. Let's say you're scrolling through either it's LinkedIn or it's Facebook or Instagram, for example, and then you go and check it out to find the product. So it's got your attention, and the level of drop off, like you click on there, you go there, you can't get you want, the website's really bad, blah blah blah. So it doesn't matter how much money you spent on the ad. It's the experience when I click beyond the ad where there's not been enough focus. The focus has been, how do we get people to click, and not the journey from the click to actually the conversation or the inquiry.
Yeah, it's the equivalent to doing, I guess, if we go back far enough, you do a huge 2-page spread on a newspaper promoting a 20% or a 30% off at your store on a particular day, and they arrive and it's closed.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't have done that. Nobody in their right mind would ever have done that. But now digitally,
that's how we do it.
They're creating the adverts, they're driving the traffic, and then they get there. Or sometimes they're not specific enough, so they've got maybe however many products they have. And they send you to the homepage. Yeah,
but what I love what you've said is mirroring the old journey and bring it into the modern day. Because I think we almost forget what we used to do. Like you said, you do all this advertising, whatever, and you turn up, the store's closed and the doors are locked. Well, you wouldn't do that. So then think of your website as that. And I know, you know, websites are not the only thing that you may more about platforms as well and digging down. But I guess that's the question you're always asking. How do we make an inquiry? How would this normally be done? And if you're digitizing something, ultimately, one of the things of digitizing it is making it always available, even if people aren't always there. Even if you can send an email that they will pick up on the Monday, at least you've done your response or your communication for someone to pick it back up. But sometimes there's not even the space to do that. Oh, well, I'll just have to use the website again on Monday. Do you see what I mean? Because I can't get hold of anyone. So I love that. So talk about some of the projects that you're involved with, because you obviously you're building a lot of big websites, big systems and stuff like that. Can you name any examples, or is it all?
No, I mean, some of them are, yes, it's internal. We can't actually talk about it. But I mean, in terms of websites, you know, nowadays we tend to focus more on the enterprise websites. Yeah. Those ones that one platform will power multiple sites. Yeah. So a great example of that actually is the work we've done with Bath and North East Somerset Council. Yeah. So for the heritage team, one platform powers the Roman Baths, the Victoria Gallery, the Fashion Museum, the archives, record office, the film office. Wow. The list goes on. There's 8 of them in total, which is fantastic because actually when we first started with them, it was supporting 8 independent Drupal sites, which for them really didn't give much value because whenever there's a Drupal update, we had to do it 8 times. For us, it was really boring because you do it once, you do it again, you have to do it again and do it again. But we're all about adding value. And what we really struggled with was the fact that, they were paying so much on ongoing maintenance to keep these sites running. Whereas now that we've redeveloped and it's one platform, we run the update once.
Yeah, there you go.
So that maintenance budget means that we're now able to focus more on looking at the customer journey for every one of these sites and making sure that the information is easy to get to, that there are clear calls to actions to them, that if they make an inquiry, for the bath venues, for example, if you make an inquiry, straight away you get a response, but not only you get a response, but you get the beautiful brochures that they have. Yeah. And they receive it straight, because they know, again, from our research, we knew that just send them an email, and when they engage with them on the phone or actually contact, the first thing they want is, send me a brochure. So now we're skipping that. They're getting that straight away.
Yeah, okay.
Little things like that make a difference.
Intelligence.
For the system, so, at the moment we're working on an event management system for lost libraries.
Yeah.
Okay. And so one of the things that it's very time consuming with the existing event management system they have is that they have a lot of recurring events. So, the baby bounce, the knit and natter, that kind of thing, computer buddy. So these events are recurring throughout the year. So it'll be on a Tuesday at Cheltenham Library at 10 a.m. every week for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. But there will be changes. So on a particular week, for whatever reason, on that day, it might change from 10 to 11 start,
Yeah.
The current system is made in such a way that, because it was built long ago and it hasn't progressed, that if they need to make that change, what they have to do is they delete all of the recurrences, create one for that day, which starts at 11, and then recreate from the next week at the normal time.
Right, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which is time consuming, but it has a knock-on effect, because if at week 3 or 4 or 5, people have already signed, then what happens is that they get a cancellation to say that it's been cancelled, followed by very quickly one saying that it's back on.
Yes.
Which makes it very confusing.
No, I've experienced that myself. Yeah.
And then they get a lot of calls or people popping in and is it cancelled? Is it not cancelled? I mean, the last one I said it isn't cancelled, but right?
Yeah.
So the new system allows them to make those changes without having. So you're able to create a recurrence, which will repeat itself as many times as you like. But if you want to make a change, you're making that change just once without having to change things. That little thing makes a massive difference.
Absolutely. And I think that's often it, isn't it? It's like it's a small fundamental thing that seems insignificant but has a massive impact in terms of the journey. And that's asking the question that, yes, it's an end user thing, but yes, it's a back end thing, but it affects the end user massively. And then not only that, it puts strain on other departments because now they're getting loads of phone calls, and then they can't deal with the amount of phone calls that they're getting. So now then their reputation is damaged as a result of it. So I think that understanding those use cases, understanding that is brilliant. But it seems logical when you talk it through. It's like, why didn't we think of this before? Yeah,
it's unfortunately there are a lot of systems out there that were very good when they came out, but they were released 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
And very little investment's gone into it, and they haven't looked at every use case. And because of that, then there isn't that opportunity. So again, one of the other things that we're working on is the self-registration. So you've registered, you booked, but when you arrive at the place, you have to queue at reception in order to kind of make sure that your attendance is marked, so you're able to go into the baby bounce or whatever event it is that you need to do, because they need to track it,
Right.
So now they'll have QR codes, and they'll be set up on an iPad or a scanner or something, and they'll be able to, and they can scan themselves in. If not, then again, we're creating a nice dashboard where you can very quickly look at somebody by name or by their library number, find them and check a box, and you mark their attendance. That's going to save them time in terms of the admin, because the self-registration means that majority of the time will be taken care of. But the user experience for those parents who've got the kids who are kind of, I want to get in there, and they're having to queue and now it's going to be just walk up to a scanner and put your phone, because everybody has their phone, or if they printed it out, the QR code, and boom, you're in.
So, obviously from your perspective then, you've grown this business from the aspect of, starting 17 years ago, you're seeing a lot of changes and a lot of evolution of tools and things like that. What do you see is the biggest change for the future? Because, there are aspects of metaverse coming rapidly down the hill. There is, as you said, I think the thing of using QR codes that was almost fading off has now come back with a vengeance because of COVID and so on. What trends can you see happening in the future in this space?
Obviously AI is a big thing. Everybody's kind of, how can we use AI? What's the best use cases for it? And I think it's people with ChatGPT and all the other ones out there, people are getting on Copilot and so on, and getting used to that ability of when they engage with a business or organization, having the ability to ask that question and getting something back, which is very focused around that particular context. So that's going to be, you're going to see a huge introduction of that, and across a lot of the systems, whether they're in websites or workflow systems or anything like that. For us within the industry, it's going to be a huge benefit as well, because it'll help us deliver things far more quickly. It will be a tool for us to use where we can say, with the latest version of Drupal, actually, you can tell it, create an event content type with, make sure that it has an event date, it has its description, it links to the location. So it makes a reference to the location. And you tell it to go, and within a couple of seconds, it's built it for you.
Wow.
It's really good. So it's going to save time. You're still going to need the expert and the expert knowledge to know what to tell it, what to do, and how to link things, and how to architecture it in such a way. But you no longer have to be typing.
And I think that's the big thing. I mean, even one of my other companies, which is building apps, we've been building with no-code tools purely because it's now building with Lego as opposed to building with lines and lines of code. And obviously, people saying, well, AI is going to kill coding in a sense. And it might do, but you still need that fundamental understanding of user journeys and customer flows to get the prompts right, first and foremost, and build it out. So I think AI will empower us. I don't think it will fully replace. It just helps us. It's another tool to the toolkit.
It's 100%. I think it's I'm open to using it as much as possible. It saves time. It streamlines a process, and for businesses, it's fantastic. Anything that you can do much quicker.
It's just like for us, we write lots of content, but not that we're going, write me a blog on X and then spits it out and then you cut and paste. You can spot that a mile off, by the way. It's like when you're doing research, I think that's the biggest thing that's helped with me. You still have to verify, you still have to do your research, but it does speed that process up. I did a project on traffic and they're basically launching an app which means that everybody in the city would register their journey travel. And certainly in a lot of the emergent cities like Dubai and places like that, because Dubai, for example, built for about 1.5 million people. It's got 3 million people in it at the moment, and the road infrastructure is shocking. By comparison, it's like a road in and there's a road out and the desert. And now it's like they're talking about it's going up to 6 million, and the infrastructure is not there. So one of the thought process behind the app was, how do we use the same infrastructure and just be more intelligent with that, and then be able to look in real time? Like Google, we're always looking at it just on our a one journey. Like me, I'm traveling, but not worrying about what everybody else is doing. Whereas what this app does, if everybody's registered on it, you know what everybody else is doing. So you can go, well, I can travel this way, but actually it might be better if I just take the bus because this is now maxed. So it would say a road's got a capacity of say 100 per whatever, and there's 96 cars on it. Actually, I won't go that way. I'll do it that way because I'm going to get there quicker. And give you that information in real time. So it's quite a clever tool. But in that, I found out that Bristol, outside of London, is the most congested city in the whole of Europe.
Wow. Okay.
That's incredible. Now, you look at that, and my experience of driving to Bristol I live in a place called Berkeley, which is north, it's hard to get into Bristol now, and now I understand why. And you look at it and you go, wow, congestion is a major challenge and a major problem, which is what they're trying to do. So if cars travel at different times, there's less cars at some times, so you might change the working day. So some people might do, like 7 in the morning and finish at 3. Other people might travel at 9 and finish at 5. And other people might finish at 11 and finish at 6 or 7. All of a sudden, you're using the same infrastructure, but more intelligently.
Yeah.
So while they're trying to build the other infrastructure, while we're waiting, so to speak. So quite an intelligent thing. But the reason why I bring it up is because if I was to do that just by searching Google, it would have taken me forever. And basically, I then began to say, where do you get the info? How do I verify the information? I found a company called Inrex that do a lot of the surveys, and they can work out how much money is wasted per minute sat in idling in London. And then they do a monetary value in the league table on it. It's incredible stuff. But that's how AI has helped me from a research perspective. It's supercharged it. And then like from a like chatbot in the bottom right hand corner, it's almost like been elevated into the search bit now, isn't it? It's gone from in the corner to now this is the experience. And I think even websites will change as a result of the prompts and then this is what you get as a result of that. Because I've started to see even search results through ChatGPT for companies.
And that's going to become, again, and this is why it's important, I think, anybody with a website to have as much information as possible on it. Yeah. Especially things like your frequently asked questions.
100%.
It's because then you're more likely then to come up on the results, because it's seeing you as the authority who's got that information, who's, so yeah, it's very interesting how things are turning around and they're used, but there's a lot of education around AI that we need to make sure that who the ones who are using it correctly, because like you said, one liner is just going to give you junk in, junk out, right? So it's how can you use it as a tool correctly where you are almost challenging it when it gives you something, because it will make things up. Yeah, it will make things up.
Just because it's giving you an answer.
Yeah, it's giving you an answer. So unless you if you ask it, give me top Drupal modules for SEO, it'll give you some which are genuine, and then it'll start making some up. Oh, wow. And unless you genuinely say, okay, which of these are active, or it'll give you some that are expired like years ago, it's no longer good. Unless you challenge it, then it'll just give you junk. And if you just grab it and paste it, then you're going to be authority on.
I love that as an approach. That whatever answer you get, challenge it. But you would challenge, like if me and you and I asked you something, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question to find out and verify what you say, type thing. And I think that's it. It's like working out what did you used to do before technology come, and then do it using the technology. That solves a lot of clues. Like you said, from buying something and the shop being closed to asking a question and then asking a follow-up question, rather than going, AI told me that's fine. I was like, well, no, not necessarily. I mean, you can play games like asking political persuasions on it, and then you can tell which side of the coin that kind of particular sort of like infrastructure prefers. And it's like, no, there are biases and you need to like work those out and understand it. But as you said, it will always give you an answer, because that's what it's programmed to do. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one.
But the challenging thing it's very interesting, because I think with social media there are a lot of unfortunately unscrupulous companies out there who make stuff up in terms of results for product, acne products, they're saying, and all of a sudden it comes out and then you wipe it and you're free. And people don't challenge it. They just see a video. Oh, it's in the video. I can see it. It's working. It's worked for this person. I click, buy, try it, find out it's complete nonsense. It doesn't work. It's actually the opposite. It's making your skin worse. But they didn't challenge it. They didn't do any background checks on the science behind it, on even reviews. They'll only do that afterwards when it doesn't work. They'll go back in and they'll go to Google and say,
but they've already taken your money, right?
Yeah. So they've taken your money. So it's too late. It's almost like they're only challenging when they get annoyed at the fact that it hasn't worked and that they've been bamboozled. Right? Yeah. But it's too late. That it's interesting that it just keeps on happening, and because especially these fraudsters know that people are just so gullible, and they'll pump these adverts to hundreds of thousands, knowing that they're going to get a percentage of that, and they're going to make money of it, and they don't care. No. But it's so I think some of that, where people just believe what they first get, is coming onto. So this is where the education piece comes in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you see with TikTok where you'll go through a couple of videos and then you got a video that's clearly an ad. And as you said, it's a product and they say, buy this. If you want a solution like this, buy this. And you might end up buying it and then you get it and it doesn't work. You go, oh, well, it's $6. I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
How many people go, oh, it was $6? And any of those shops, there's this one-time purchase thing where so many people do a one-time purchase and will never buy again. But hey, I got you $6. And I think where that crept into my buying experience is someone like Amazon, where Amazon will opt you in for something that you haven't signed up to very sneakily, and then you find out, why has £15 come out, or why has this £2 come out?
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw a £2 come out, I go, why has that come out of the account? Anyway, it basically was a thing where you'd do a trial, but at the end of the trial, it would take the money. But there's no double opt-in to double check. It just automatically takes it because you signed up for the contract at the beginning. And I think it's great for them because how many people are going to even question it? And so, well, you signed up in the beginning. And there's that grey area about customer experience. And wouldn't it be good if you just asked again? It'd be like if you're having a cup of tea and you're sat there and you're enjoying your tea and I just fill it up for you again. And you go, well, I didn't want that. But then you just start drinking it. Oh, by the way, I'm charging you for 2 cups of tea. And you're like, oh, I thought that was free or I thought it was and there's that customer experience or that grey that leaves us with that funny taste in our mouth going, well, I didn't buy it. I bought one coffee and ended up buying 2. You've made £2 out of me, but I feel really annoyed that you've actually taken more money.
And what's interesting, especially with those impulse buys, because if they're only $2 or $6 or whatever it is, that actually, I wonder if they did send a message a week before to say, this is going to renew in a week's time, you can cancel here. Doing the ethical thing.
Yeah.
How many people would actually cancel? But at least they'd have the choice, right?
Correct.
So I don't think they would lose that many more than, and that they'd have the right, then you wouldn't be able to say, oh, you didn't tell me about it, But it's having the right attitude towards
one of the journeys, and I think it was Amazon, one of the journeys where we didn't even opt in. We just had another product and somehow they just added it on and they said, oh, sorry, and refunded us.
But how many people don't notice?
How many $2 have you taken where people are, oh, it's only $2. And then they never see that come off again. But you've taken $2 off, I don't know, 1 billion people was a lot of money, right? Because when
volume,
when you look at the volume, it is scary. So, well, where would we be able to get hold of you if we want to, someone wants to sort of like pick your brain, find out about how they can optimize their legacy system maybe, or go from paper to digital? How would someone get hold of you?
Yeah, so reach out over at opencentric.uk. Find me on LinkedIn, William Velasco. There are many of us that look like this. But we're open to always have a conversation with businesses or organizations who are really looking to step up their customer journey. To improve their workflow processes, and who are just have that ambition to be better within their industry, to provide a better service. The way we see ourselves, because we are so broad in terms of what we deliver in terms of systems, is a digital partner. So we're very good at pushing back when somebody's asking for something that we see that there would be no value in them having that. Because that is, again, if we go back to the digital partner bit, that's really what, as a partner, you'd look after your partner, wouldn't you? And that's really what we're about. It's giving that value, being there to have your back if you're looking for a system that's going to be robust and it's going to deliver. Opencentric.uk.
No, it's been great. I mean, for me, just understanding that at the heart of however big technology grows, at the heart of what you do is the human. And I think that's what sets you apart from other people that I've spoken to over the course of developing tech and that sort of stuff. So it's been an absolute pleasure. I could have talked for another hour on this stuff, but it's brilliant. So we'll get you back 100%.
Oh, brilliant. No, thank you very much for having me. And that time's blown by. It's really, really quick.
Look at that. Thanks so much. Right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it, and be successful in life on their terms.